One-stop shop. You've probably never learned as much in one Cowboys video as you're about to learn right now. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe. We'll see. Your questions, my answers right now. Here we go. Some explosive storylines kind of surfacing throughout the offseason so far. And I pretty much just focused a lot more of my energy, my free time, now that I got two babies, focusing on that stuff. Okay, I've still tapped into quite a bit of the draft as well, which is what we're going to be talking about today. I just haven't been able to cover it as deeply as I would like to. So about a 12, 13-week series so far, the postmortem series, as I've called it, on my YouTube channel. If you've missed all that stuff, please feel free to go check that out. I know, obviously, the next 2 weeks is going to be built up. Everybody's going to be focused on one event and one event only. But once that concludes, keep this in mind here, and I'd appreciate if you guys give me some feedback there, because there's a lot of, like I said, explosive storylines, just interesting things to discuss. Now today, trade up, trade back, or stay put. Okay, we're going to talk about all of that and what's the best formula for the Cowboys in 2024. And then also what's most likely to happen. Before we get to that, we had a couple questions on Twitter. Appreciate everybody's time responding, coming up with some very thought-provoking questions, so we'll get to those at the very end. First thing I want everybody to consider, I'm still not hearing people talk about this, okay? I touched on this a few weeks back. I think it's very important. I think it's very likely, in fact. 4 comp picks projected to the Cowboys in 2025 based on 4 free agency moves, guys leaving their building, going elsewhere. Contracts high enough that garner the NFL essentially saying, hey, here you go. We're going to give you this gift. Since you lost a really good player, here you go. Here's a comp pick for you. Most likely right now, they got 4 of them. Do you remember the significance of signing Eric Kendricks? Why that was such a big deal? Yes, I was predicting it, pounding the table for it before it ever happened, long before he was actually even cut. But since he got cut, it worked out much better for the Cowboys than they could have ever even dreamed of, right? Why? Because signing a cut player, a cap casualty, does not delete one of your 4 comp picks for next year, okay? That's the contingency plan for Dak Prescott in the event that they aren't able to get a long-term deal worked out. They need all the darts they can have in 2025, worst case scenario, okay? I think that's sticking. So how do you fill all these holes? That's, a bunch of the depth that's left you in free agency this year. You damn sure can't do it in one draft like we talked about. You don't even have enough picks for it. It's literally impossible. But even if you did have the picks, the chances of you hitting on all 10 or however many of those depth guys that you got to replace, you still ain't going to do it. Because most guys, the draft is it's a very imperfect science, y'all, okay? So here in just a couple short weeks, we're going to see some guys start to get cut, particularly on that defensive side of the ball. I think this is an offensive draft. It's loaded with tackles. It's loaded with centers. It's a great year to need a left tackle on center, y'all. I'm just saying. It's a great year for it. Consider yourselves lucky in that regard, Jerry and Steven. So, yeah, cap casualties, some veteran guys. After the draft shakes out, teams are like, okay, let's save a few $1 million here by cutting this player. We don't really have a plan for him in the future. The Dallas Cowboys have entered the chat. As of right now, they've spent the least amount of money in free agency, $11 million. And that's calculated. Okay. There's some big contracts looming here that they have to figure out. They're not sure about how it's going to shake out. So they're being very cautious, even more so than they would, right? All in, we thought they were serious about that, but all in looks a lot different than we thought at this point. Okay. Guys get cut. You fill your defensive tackle spot on the defensive side of the ball with free agents who are now cut. So don't count against the comp pick formula. That's very important. I want people to understand that. Okay. That's coming soon. Just a few short weeks after the draft is over. Teams will turn the page and they'll start to make decisions about their future. And that's when the Cowboys can enter the building. We got that. Cool. And then, of course, the Tyler Smith situation. Okay, some interesting developing news there, I guess, a storyline sort of cultivated by himself. This is what I've been touching on in the previous 12, 13 weeks. One of the most polarizing storylines so far this offseason has been Tyler Smith. Are we leaving him at left guard? We're swapping him back over to left tackle. Okay. My initial thoughts have since been verified by not only Tyler Smith himself, but also Tyler Smith's trainer, right? The Mr. Miyagi of offensive linemen, if you will. And that's Duke Manyweather. All right. If you're not familiar with who Duke is, I highly recommend just giving him a Google or tapping in with Vosh, hearing some of his thoughts. You get a much better understanding for the operation as far as how he goes about developing players. He literally puts guys in the lab and they come out a completely different player. It's incredible the work that this guy does. So if people don't, if they don't necessarily want to hear it from me, please take it from Voch or take it from Duke himself, okay? Or even Tyler himself, like we discussed. I'm going to show you guys what he said in just a second. Here's the premise that I want everybody to that I think makes the most sense, okay? And it sounds like this is exactly the plan of action because Tyler Smith can say he's going to play left guard all he wants to, right? But at the end of the day, he's not making that decision necessarily. Zach Martin, the guy that's a surefire Hall of Famer, can kind of put his foot down and say, nah, I'm done playing right tackle. Okay. You're leaving me right here at right guard. We saw some injuries kind of creep up because it's a different movement pattern. It's he was more than serviceable out there, but when you do something for so long and then you all of a sudden change what you do as far as how you move, the human body is amazing as far as adapting. Okay. And it gets used to and accustomed to certain movement patterns, right? But when you're at the right tackle, you've got a steeper drop that, it's no secret why the calf injury crept up on him as soon as he switched out there. Back to the point, Tyler Smith, it's simple for me. Let him be your chess piece, okay? I think ideally for everyone, a lot of people are going to agree that left guard, leaving him where he is already, an all-pro, makes a lot of sense. Here's the deal. With the draft, Cowboys have a ton of guys at the tackle position and the center position on their 30 list. If the right guy at left tackle falls to you at 24, Tyler Smith is your left guard, period. If your draft day doomsday situation happens, right, and you get wiped out at tackle, and the top 3 or 4, say, graded players that you've got on your board at the O-line spot are all interior players. Jackson Powers Johnson, Zach Frazier, Graham Barton, you name it. Take the best player on your board. Insert that guy at either center or left guard, whatever you want to do. And then you could talk about switching Tyler Smith back out to left tackle depending on what happens. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that to me. All right. And it seems like he thinks the very same thing. Take a listen.
I'll say this, guys. I'm coming off an extremely good year at guard. I've had, over this past year.
And only going to get better. And only going to get better.
Hey,
yep.
Highest, the best in the land. Come on.
Top of the top.
Top of the top. But yeah, so I'm coming off a really good year at guard. I'm feeling really comfortable at guard. I kind of like, how the continuity is right now. Like you said, already preface this. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, y'all. And I'm able to do whatever it takes.
Yep, 100%.
And so, we'll see what the future holds. Obviously, stay ready for anything. But for right now, I'm a starting left guard at Dallas Cowboys, y'all.
The highest graded player on your board is a tackle. Then there's no discussion left necessary. You take the tackle, you leave Tyler Smith where he is, and you roll. You figure out center in round 2 or 3. I prefer taking a tackle early because there's more depth on the interior further down the line in the draft. Tackles go quickly, right off the board. Bang, bang, bang. You get wiped out. So ideally, to me, that's the way to go. Doomsday situation happens. You get wiped out at tackle. Talisi Fuaga's off the board. Joe Alt's off the board. Olu Fashanu's off the board. Tyler Guyton even. Whoever. Name it. You've got 3 interior players, center or guard or otherwise, graded higher than your next available tackle. Take the guard or take the center. And then we can talk about moving Tyler Smith after that. That's what it comes to. So I mentioned we had some questions on Twitter. And once again, I really appreciate you guys tapping in. This is one of my favorite parts about what I do is getting to just converse with like-minded people who all want the same thing, right? They just see things a little bit differently. It's healthy for all of us, okay? Mike Crum on Twitter at CD Piglet. His question and my previous, what you guys just heard, perfectly ties into this one. That's why I responded to him. Great question, Mike. I love this one, okay? Is there a veteran you could see Dallas trading for using 2025 picks like Gilmore and Cooks were? since they'll have so many comps. So if you'll remember, the Cowboys traded, I think it was a total of actually 3 day 3 picks for Cooks and Gilmore. Could I see Dallas acquiring some veteran players? Yes, I could. Much more so via the situation that I just laid out, being guys that are cap casualties getting cut and then signing them for veteran minimum deals, where you don't have to spend a future draft pick. I feel like they're coveting comp picks even more so than they normally would, just because of what is currently happening with their quarterback situation, the contract extension situation with CD and even Micah Parsons, right? There's a lot of money that's about to be spent in their mind. And they want us to continue to believe that the salary cap is a hard number, right? I'm always on board saying, to me, it's much more of an accounting principle than it is a hard cap number on any team building philosophy. It exists in the future. It does not exist today. You can make today work with your salary cap gymnastics. There's things that you can do: flip the switch, restructure money, push it out into the future, kick the proverbial can down the road, right? We know how this works. We should, at least. They're coveting their future draft picks now more than ever, in my mind, because of the current situation that they're in with Dak Prescott. They're essentially playing hardball with themselves. We know that they're eventually going to end up signing him. At least that's what I believe. So I hope that answers your question, Mike. I love where your head's at as far as acquiring more veteran players, because like I've been preaching, man, you got to have some defensive help to minimize that learning curve in a brand new defense on that defensive side of the ball. Go get some veteran guys who know what they're doing. That's why Eric Kendricks was perfect. Brilliant. The stars aligning, if you will. Let's hope 1 or 2 more of those guys fall this offseason that they can bring in, insert, ideally up front in the middle of the defense, okay? But they needed some more linebacker help. They could use another corner, because we still don't know how Trayvon Diggs is gonna bounce back. Stephon Gilmore is still out there technically, but he's 33 now. You could use some help there. So thank you, Mike. I hope that answers your question, man. Please let me know your thoughts on my response, right? You don't have to agree with me at all, but I'd love to know how you process that. Next question from Jake Lana. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. And once again, thanks for tapping in, Jake. Does Dallas broadcast their draft needs so that in the draft it makes it easier for a team to trade up in front of them? Example, second round, if all the running backs are sitting there before Dallas picks, another team trades up to get ahead of Dallas. So kind of what he's referencing here, recent history. The Cowboys brought in Dallas Goedert as a 30 visit. I want to say a few years back. The Eagles famously traded right up, one pick in front of them, selected Dallas Goedert, and the rest is history. I feel like we're probably not overstating this, because it's certainly fair to speculate that that's the case. I personally would have to do some more digging on how other teams go about, like, the percentage of guys on teams pre-draft 30 visit list that they actually end up selecting in the draft. I know the Cowboys, they do kind of do it. It's not as much as you might think. Like, for instance, last year, Mozzie Smith was a 30 visit, but Matthew Bergeron was not. And that's who they were really split in that war room. And we heard Will McClay ultimately kind of give the final say right before Jerry said, okay, let's get Mozzie on the phone or whatever.
Who would you take?
Personally, I would go with Mozzie, because I know that he helps us now with the guard. I love the guard too. My question is, you're adding something to it where we have depth. I think the defensive lineman gives you an immediate starter and something for the future.
Here, I am cutthroat if we missed one of those 2 guys after having them both here in our hands.
We've had offensive linemen there. We've had the opportunity to pick them. We've not had a defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman, that high in quite some time.
We're good. Let's get him on the phone.
They were split. So one guy was on the board, was on the list. The other guy wasn't. And this is Voch did a fantastic exercise on this a few days ago, and I'll try to have that linked here. If I forget, please forgive me on that. There's a lot on my mind right now, but you can find it, and if not, reach out to him and tell him that I sent you or whatever. Ask him, just say, hey, I was having a conversation with Lando. Do you mind pointing me in the right direction? Whatever you got to do.
This is what I started to ask myself though, chat. Darius Robinson is here on the 30 visit list, but is he really in consideration? I think Edgerrin Cooper will be a first round pick. He's on the 30 visit list, but is he really in consideration? I don't think he is.
So totally fair to speculate, but I think more teams do this than we may be that we may give it credit for, or maybe that we're exposed to, just since we're so hyper focused on what the Cowboys are doing this time of year. I think it certainly may feel a lot more like that than it already is. But to promptly and more directly answer your question, I know that for sure there's the day one correlation of the guys on the pre-draft 30 list is actually very high. But here's why I wouldn't worry about that too much. Okay, like right now the Cowboys have, I think, 5 or 6 guys, depending on where you look, that are on that list, all projected to go in the first round. Okay, so there's 5 or 6 different options that you use from. You're not really giving a ton of information away. No team's going to know for sure which one of those 5. That's a 25% shot. Okay, you're not getting overly aggressive and giving away, giving away picks spontaneously, just out of spite for another organization. I don't think, right? When you still don't even know for a fact of who that draft pick is going to be from that list. To me, there's just, I don't really see that being too much of a threat. Okay. Another thing too, right? They've actually only brought in 25 guys in total. So it's really, this year, it's not a pre-draft 30 list. It's a pre-draft 25 list. Okay. So if they were really like on giving away too much information, if they truly were, they would be utilizing the remaining 5 to do that extra due diligence, right? So to me, it's kind of just one of those formality things that I wouldn't worry too much about. I guess just a good way to look at it would be like, put yourself in their shoes for a second. Like, just like pretend that you're a GM, and the draft is already such an imperfect science anyways. Like it's really hard to hit on guys. Like if you come out of the draft with a, let's say you have 8 picks. If 4 of those guys end up being starters for you, that's 50%. You're doing backflips. And I think the last thing that I would be doing if I was a GM or an owner would be trying to predict and study and worry about 31 other franchises and organizations within their process. I don't know that I have the resources, the energy, the time to do all that. And it's very difficult to master, to get it right, to worry about your process, like focus on you and get it right. So it's just, to me, I wouldn't worry about it too much. What I do want people to think about, though, on top of just the 25 list, okay, this is another thing that doesn't really get talked about near as much, but it's just as important, in my opinion, especially because the Cowboys are, I make fun of them for, being the richest, most valuable sports franchise in the world, yet they spend the least amount of money on their coaching staff. They're not active in the trade market. They're not active in free agency on day one, whatever. Where they do like to spend money, more so than most teams, like they're up at the top routinely. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Is in the undrafted free agent market. The guys that they sign, their signing bonuses are, always near the top, right? And the guys that they don't sign, they're always in the conversations for the dudes that make the most money post-draft. So with that information in mind, okay, Dallas Day, just as important in the Cowboys' eyes, at the very least, as the actual pre-draft 30 list. That's a lot more commonly thrown around for some reason. Each team gets to host interviews with up to 30 prospects at their team facilities right ahead of the draft. Okay, that's the 30 list. But for the Cowboys, they also have Dallas Day. It's for essentially draft-eligible prospects who attended a DFW high school or went to area colleges like TCU, SMU, or North Texas. So that's their way of being a little bit more secretive. And I would venture to say, I want to ask, some more of the people that are inside the Star on a daily basis. This would be a good question to ask some of them. And thank you for this, because we're all learning here on the fly. I wonder if the correlation is even higher from the Dallas Day visitors, or in the same realm percentage wise. I would be curious to know their opinion on how those two things stack up as far as actual relevance on draft day. So appreciate you, Jake. Thanks, man. Next question from my guy Tito at _WeedhamBoys4. And I love this question too, man. This gets me going a little bit. The gears start grinding and turning. If you were going to draft a wide receiver this year, what round would you be looking to add that position? Okay. Let's break this up in 2 parts. Part number one, trust the board. Okay, if the best player on your board falls to you at 24, take that guy. If it's a wide receiver, I don't care who it is. Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas, God forbid, Odunze Harrison or neighbors slip. If that guy's there for you, everybody thought there's no way CD was getting to us at 17 or whatever it was. There was no chance that happened. But guess what? It happened. Okay, if the best player on your board falls to you at 24 and it's a receiver, go for it. Always good business, because what's not a need now can very quickly become a need later. But where this gets interesting for me, okay, if you're drafting a receiver in round 1 because you currently don't have a left tackle and a center, that to me tells me that you're overconfident in the abilities of Brock Hoffman and TJ Bass, which I know a lot of people love those guys, and I do too. But nobody can confidently say that we've seen them ball out against some badasses in the playoffs or in the division, really. Right? I think they both got their starts in week 3 against Arizona and week 18 against Washington's second and third stringers. So yeah, we love the tenacity of Brock Hoffman. We love the versatility of TJ Bass. Good players, right? But those are undrafted free agents that you haven't seen start a full season yet. We really haven't even seen them acclimate to the NFL. So if you're taking a receiver round 1, that to me tells me you've got some hyper confidence there in your undrafted free agents. And, that's another discussion too that I haven't even brought up yet is if you guys slide Tyler Smith over to left tackle, and then you're just saying, okay, let's start TJ Bass and Brock Hoffman at left guard and center respectively. You really want 2 undrafted free agents making their first career, starts as like part of the starting 5 together, side by side next to each other on the interior where quarterbacks hate pressure the most? Are you sure you want that? So here's my thing. Yes, wide receiver is a need, okay? You got Brandon Cooks on the last year of his deal. Kevontae Turpin's on the last year of his deal. We still have no idea what Jalen Tolbert's going to be. People like Jalen Brooks, but are you counting on him to be a focal point of your offense? Probably not yet. Okay, so really it's CeeDee Lamb and then a bunch of question marks after this year as of today. So yes, you absolutely need a receiver. And I know exactly where Tito's coming from when he asked that question. I think the Cowboys probably will take one. But the problem is, here's the kicker, okay? The Cowboys don't have a problem throwing the football as long as number 4 is upright. They're going to be the top offense in the league, no matter what. What they do have a problem with is 3.2 yards per carry in each of their last 3 playoff losses. Controlling the line of scrimmage, dominating teams up front in the postseason when it matters most. And I can say the same thing about them stopping the run on defense as well. So that's really where I'm at, Tito. And wide receiver is sexy. It's technically a need for them. But I think that position is always one of the most deep positions in every draft class, especially this year. You hear guys that do this for a living and have done it a lot longer than I have. They'll tell you it's one of the deepest wide receiver classes they've ever evaluated. So I think you can get a wide receiver 3 or a contributor guy, like somebody that can come in and play special teams and spell certain people for you, do a variety of different things in a variety of different ways. Like Malachi Coley, for example, I'm hearing a lot of people talk about him because he was a draft visitor, right? I think it's also fair to say that a lot of if you look around the league, a lot of teams are bringing him in as a 30 visit guy because I don't think he had all of his medical stuff done at the combine, right? So he was kind of behind on some things. So his camp is catching up, right? And teams are trying to figure out exactly what his medicals look like, how healthy he is, and then get a closer look, sure, about some of the mental side of things, right? But you're going to see teams especially place a premium this year now with the kickoff rules and stuff. Special teams players, return men specialists are going to be at a premium. So in that instance, we may see Xavier Worthy even. Like, I'm a Texas guy too, so that's really where we might see his speed validate itself in the form of a first-round draft pick, because he's going to be even more valuable now than he otherwise would have been in previous NFL because of the rule change. So keep an eye on that. But the Malachi Coley thing, man, love the player. I see the Deebo Samuel light comp all the time, and that's a clickbaity, sexy thing to say. And I see where people are getting that just with the yak ability alone. He is a dude. You just get the ball in his hands and let him go work. I don't know what round to expect to see him in. I would say probably late day 2 sometime, or even early day 3 perhaps. But fun player. To put a bow on your question, man, stay true to your board and let the pieces fall as they may. Next question from Shane here, and I'm going to try to keep this one a little bit more concise. I'm very long-winded and probably over-detailed in my responses than I should be. It's making this video a little bit longer, but hey, that's the world we live in, and this is my channel, so yeah, we're gonna live with it regardless. But I am going to try to make this a little bit quicker for y'all. Do you think it's better to target an OT, so talking about tackle here, before a center, or the other way around? Very similar response to the previous one, man. I'm letting the board fall to me. If I have the I trust the Cowboys. What they do, if they get nothing else right within their team building process, they get a lot of crap. Maybe rightfully so from a lot of people. Okay, but one of the things that we can hang our hats on as fans is, hey, trust their evaluation with offensive linemen on day one. Okay, All-Pro Tyler Smith, Hall of Famer Zach Martin, Travis Frederick, Hall of Famer as well, and then of course another Hall of Famer,
Tyron Smith.
all within the last, what? I ain't going to get this wrong, y'all. Sorry. Pretty sure it was 2011. Yeah, okay. 2011. See, the old think tank was reliable. Should have trusted it. Anyway, so the recent hit rate of Hall of Famers in the first round for the Cowboys, bank on that. Take it to the bank, okay? Here's my thing. Best player on your board, regardless of what position it is, trust it. Go with it. Bingo. Inevitably and unequivocally, there's going to be more depth later on down the draft at guard and center than there will be at tackle. So in a perfect world, I think the Cowboys find their tackle on day one. And yes, I would love for them to double dip up front on day two and get their center. JPJ, Graham Barton, Zach Frazier. There's a couple other guys that I even like too, but I would love that. Because what happens, right? If you solidify 2 of your 5 positions and you've already got Tyler Smith, who looks to be another potential Hall of Famer in the future. Way too early to say that, but All-Pro right now, year 2. Really his first year starting at left guard. He's one of the best in the league, okay? What does that tell you? If you hit on those 2 guys, and even if they're not Hall of Famers, the other 2, but they're just serviceable starters, you ain't got to worry about it for 10 years. You're good. So I love that. But to me, it's much easier, and this is hypothetical scenario, to find your tackle in round 1, and then either your left guard or center or whatever you want to say on day 2 and beyond. It's much easier. And I wanted to make sure that I wasn't crazy about that. So I did a little exercise to kind of verify what I was saying there. And it turns out that of the 10 highest paid centers in the NFL as of 2023, only 2 of them were first round draft picks. Of the 10 highest paid left tackles in the NFL as of 2023, 6 of them were first round draft picks. So 3 times as many. And then, if we take that a step further, some even crazier context to me really is that over 2 times as many, almost 3 times as many, actually, centers were taken in the 5th round or later than the 1st round. So you got Jason Kelce, 6th round pick, Ryan Jensen, 6th round pick, Corey Linsley, 5th round pick, and Ted Karras and Bradley Bozeman, also both 6th round picks. Only 2 first rounders, centers. The only left tackle right now in the NFL that wasn't a day 1 or day 2 pick was actually Jordan Mailata. He was taken in the 7th round by the Eagles. Now, of course, he's with the Titans. Very, very interesting stuff. The top 6 guys, right? Laramie Tunsil, Andrew Thomas, Trent Williams, Deion Dawkins, Jake Matthews, Colton Miller. First, second, first. The league just evaluates that position a little bit more confidently. So, or they prioritize it a little bit more, whatever you want to say, however you want to say it, but interesting stuff. Next question from official Manny B. BPA and best player available each round, or trade up numerically and get more picks to recover a 4th and some change. So I think what he meant to say, and I'm just going to assume this, so forgive me if I'm wrong here, but BPA each round or trade up numerically and get more picks to recover a 4th. So right now the Cowboys don't have a 4th round pick. What I think he's saying is trade back to get more picks to sort of recover that. And I'm always team trade back. I teased towards the beginning of this video, trade up, stay put, or trade back. I'm always team trade back because I think what a lot of teams are guilty of is they fall victim to being prisoner of the moment there, and they end up overspending, overpaying to move up to acquire a particular guy. Similar to what teams do right in free agency. I said in a recent video here, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, the Cowboys lost a bunch of guys, right? But it was B and C level guys that got B- and C+ money in free agency, right? So you kind of overpay a little bit just because it's the right now. You got to do what you got to do, get it done. You can't sit on it, think about it, and negotiate. You just have to say, boom, here's what we got. So a lot of times teams do overpay a little bit. So to answer your question here, BPA, yes, because I think that the Cowboys in particular, they do that well. when like recent history suggests that when they stick to the best player on their board, it's going to be a thumbs up. Okay. But to the second part of the question, get more picks to recover a fourth and some change. Like I said, man, without being able to say today that they were able to acquire some more free agency help on the defensive side of the ball from some guys that are cap casualties that don't count against the comp pick formula. A lot of C's there. Holy alliteration. Yes, I'm all about trading back and acquiring picks, getting more darts to throw to fill some depth spots on your roster. And a lot of things too that doesn't get talked about a lot. I think like round 4 is a very interesting, like it's a very valuable pick to me. And, hence why the Cowboys covet their comp picks so much, because most of those are round 4 and 5 picks anyways. Especially in a deep wide receiver draft, you're going to see a bunch of those guys that should go on day 2, day 3 slide into day 4. So like I got a feeling the Cowboys are going to be sitting there. As soon as round 1 begins, there's going to be 3 guys that they have at their receiver position that should have gone on day 2 that are still on the board that they would love to be able to, have some skin in the game on that day, day 3. So on Saturday, they're going to be sitting there thinking, damn, I wish we had a 4th round pick. So they could certainly do that. They could acquire that. If there's a couple different tackles or otherwise that fall to them, at 24, or even a big time receiver, somebody overvalues Brian Thomas and you're not desperate for it. You don't have him graded as highly as other people do. Teams want to come up, you go back a few spots and still secure your, say, Jordan Morgan or Olu Fashanu or whoever you want, man. God, to me, that's dream scenario. Then all of a sudden, you move back a couple spots, but then you add a round 3 or round 4 extra pick in that process. Now you can go get your tackle, your center, your running back, and your receiver all on the first 2 days of the draft. How sick would that be? So yes, to Manny's question, BPA almost always for me. But trading back, especially with the situation that the Cowboys are in, I don't think they're one player away from being there. They're more like 5 or 6 players away. And it's all in the middle and up front of their offense and the middle and up front on their defense. So I know why some people are going to be hinting at them trading up because they've got Talisi Fuaga, who is most people's top overall graded tackle. It's either between him and Joe Alt. But the Cowboys brought him in for a pre-draft 30 visit. So people are saying, well, he's a top 7 pick lock. Cowboys are chilling down there at 24. Why would they even waste their time? Well, because anything can happen. That's why. The fact that they already don't have a 4th round pick, I can't imagine them spending another 3rd. So being completely out of the mix, rounds 3 and round 4, going 100 some odd picks between their 2nd round pick and their 5th. I find that very hard to imagine. So appreciate you, Manny. That's all I got, man. And I think that also kind of answers Mario's question as well. STX Mario, another fantastic question, but I think that kind of answers that one. So let me know if you still need some further clarification, or if you disagree, hit me up, man. I'm curious to hear your feedback there. And then the last question, once again, was previously addressed. How do you feel about Bass as a starter? I feel like he looked good last year when needed, and feel that he was really getting a lot of reps with Tyron not practicing, meaning we only really need to find our center and get that continuity going, as opposed to spending, let's see what he said at the end, 2 different messages, as opposed to spending 2 high picks on offensive line. Be interested in your thoughts. I'll touch on that real quick, even though I feel like I already did kind of answer that. So if you're telling me that you're moving Tyler Smith from left guard to left tackle, so not only are you replacing 2 offensive line positions, now you're replacing 3. So to me, you're instantly creating an extra hole. That's kind of where my brain's at, right? You already need a left tackle and a center. So you're trying to replace 2 positions. But if you're moving Tyler from guard to tackle, now you're replacing 3. So already I don't love moving Tyler anyways. That in my head is further complicating the continuity piece of this, which is very important. Like you'll hear Duke. That's one of the main reasons why Duke is saying, like, yeah, Tyler, his skill set does better suit him today for the guard position. But it has more to do with the continuity than it does anything else. These guys have to learn how to work together as a cohesive unit. So it's like, to me, you're making the process more complicated, I think. Personally, that's just where I'm at. So I love spending 2 picks on offensive line. Like, if, in the playoffs, to me, the trenches are what really wins, and it's what separates the good from the great, and, the great from the Super Bowl champs, is they control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. little bit more further emphasis here. The Cowboys lost to playoff caliber teams, including the Green Bay Packers this year, for no other reason than they couldn't run the ball effectively and they couldn't stop the run. Trenches. I thought I was going to have a little bit more time to get to more and kind of wrap put a bow on all my thoughts as far as what's most likely to happen at 24 and beyond for this team. Just for the second time, I'm going to call it for this particular video, and then I'm also going to do the best that I can to have not one more, but 2 more videos for you this week, where I just continue answering questions, continue going over some draft eval stuff, some film evaluations, and most likely scenarios and the best possible outcomes for the Cowboys at 24. Thank you for all the continued support. I've got some really exciting things coming, and I know I keep saying that, but it's true, including some collaborations with other people that you guys are very familiar with. I'm just going to leave it at that. Some of the kings in this industry, okay? It's been a lot of fun for me. It's been validation and verification of what I'm doing. People are starting to take notice. I am putting in a lot of work. My process isn't as efficient as it could be, and I'm perfectly fine admitting that, especially considering I got 2 baby girls now. That's just where I'm at, man. I'm doing the best that I can with my time. I'm also building a golf business on the side. That's going very well too, and it's a lot of fun, and I love what I do. I love where I'm at, but I promise you, the Cowboys content's not going anywhere, and I've got some exciting things planned for that, so stay tuned. But I'll be asking for more questions and hopefully be answering those to the best of my ability, not once, but 2 more times this coming week. Until then, talk to you soon.